Hey, everyone, it's February 22nd, 2022. It's 12:41 in my neck of the woods, and I just got back from doing some business, doing some chores, things that I had to do, and I was listening to a couple of podcasts that I listened to, and I had to chime in with this one real quick. So, look, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about what's going on between the PGA Tour and Phil Mickelson and Saudi Arabia being a big new funder, of which Trump is involved with as well. And I went to college with Phil Mickelson at the same time period. I didn't know Phil, didn't know him well. I actually met him. He showed up at a party of mine one time. It was my senior year. It was 1991, and I used to play rugby at ASU. And I remember we had this insane party where we had the water polo. There was all of these tournaments happening at the same time. There were water polo tournaments of the Pac-10 at the time, as well as rugby tournaments and lacrosse. And all three of those, the entire Pac-10 squads of all of those schools showed up at this house that I lived in with 7 other dudes. And we had an amazing party. It was so huge. It ended up being on the front page of the state press at that time. And lo and behold, Phil Mickelson showed up at this party. In fact, I'll never forget, it was such a shindigger that one of my roommates I couldn't find for 2 hours until I literally stumbled over him while he was passed out underneath the pool table, and I basically spilt my drinks on the way down, and that's when I discovered him. And I got up and I looked over across the room, and lo and behold, and Phil Mickelson gave me hey dude, that was pretty funny. And and here I am. And Phil, if you hear this message, listen to what I'm telling you from one Sun Devil to another. Listen, I heard what you were just talking about, or at least what people are saying is that, there's guys that are, new players to the PGA that, have to live and bootstrap it, and you're looking to get more money for them. Meanwhile, you're worth like $400 million, and people are talking about you potentially having a big gambling habit, and you're apparently aware of what Saudi Arabia is and has done, but apparently you're willing to look past that to get money from Saudi Arabia into the PGA. My God, listen, Phil, I'm serious. I can't even believe I got to tell you this because we're the same generation and you grew up through this whole situation. But are you aware there was 26 redacted pages in the 9/11 Commission hearing that all of the family members of 9/11 victims have been trying to get public for, 20 plus years that have been hidden, that came out on a Friday because the New York Times, released them because, nobody wanted to understand what actually took place, that there's actual material evidence that Bandar bin Sultan's wife provided material assistance to the cells that were both in San Diego, where you're from, and also in Jacksonville, of which led to 9/11. Of course, 4,000 of our countrymen, many of whom were from Arizona State, buddy, that got evaporated on 9/11, and the Saudi government, or at least the wife of one of the most powerful people within the Saudi monarchy, which is the Saudi government, was providing material support for the freaking terrorists that pulled off 9/11. And that's public information. Not to mention that after the fact, the Bush administration only spent $4 million on the 9/11 Commission report when they should have spent a couple of $100 million getting to the bottom of it, considering what, the wars that we've had over the last 20 years and what led to stuff in Afghanistan and Syria and, of course, Iraq and, all of the stuff with ISIS and everything else. My God, Phil, you got to be kidding me. But this is one thing I'll give you an out on, because this is the hypocrisy that I've been trying to tell everybody about that's involved with the con. So the New York Times goes after Russell Brand last Friday, or, for this fact-checking sequence of this guy, Robert Malone, because of the whole COVID madness, because of, what could be or couldn't be misinformation, disinformation that leads to potentially this whole situation with, Pfizer potentially being, guilty of fraud in terms of the clinical trials that they did, and Pfizer may as well be, McDonnell Douglas or Lockheed Martin as it relates to, the pharmaceutical side of the empire, the American empire, right? But at the same time, to bring this full circle, the New York Times, of course, is being hypercritical about fact-checking the facts in this particular situation, but they completely ignored what I'm telling you about the 26 pages, the redacted pages of Saudi Arabia being involved with providing material support to the hijackers and everything that constitutes. I mean, if you look back to, Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, right? that guy was up to his eyeballs with, of course, the situation with Halliburton and everything that took place that went into Iraq after the fact, and we attacked Iraq after 9/11 when, Iraq and Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. Saudi Arabia did. But since they're the swing producer and since our oil industrial complex, which fuels the military industrial machine, which fuels the financial complex, which is at the hierarchy of everything the power is in the United States, basically, let's look the other way of that situation. Let's create these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Let's not get to the bottom of it. Let's maintain, fossil fuel is the paradigm of energy throughout the world, given everything that's happening with climate change. But at the bottom, when you get to the end of that, the New York Times covered this whole thing up because they're obviously not trying to punch holes in the system that I'm explaining to you, which if you want to know the truth, Phil, with all of the people, the haters that are coming after you like me for all the right reasons, all you have to do is say this. If you really want to get out of it and you want to talk about the truth of the way our system works, just say BlackRock is the lead manager of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. And I'm sure that's part and parcel to what's going on here with the PGA. And by the way, BlackRock are the ones that are in the first position that got put there by Geithner because the American people were foam on the runway for the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, which that financial terrorism probably devastated more Americans, multitudes of 1,000, than what actually took place for the Americans, unfortunately, in 9/11 and elsewhere. We're talking tens of millions of people that got freaking crushed by this situation. And so 22 years later, or 20 years later, 21 years later, given 9/11, BlackRock and all of these guys, they're super highly involved and immersed. And don't forget, all of our financial system created the IPOs for Saudi Aramco back in 2018, 2019? So why wouldn't you do this? By the way, why wouldn't Trump be involved with the Saudis? Our entire financial system is. You know what I mean? So, not to mention, so it's all smoke and mirrors. Now, listen, dude, if you got a gambling problem, go get help. If you're drinking too much or something like that, you can work yourself out of this. We've got plenty of Sun Devils who, hit the wall, hit the ground, hit hit rock bottom and bounce back. Gambling is a significant problem. But Phil, just open up your eyes, dude. You're going to play ball with the people that attacked us on 9/11? And I'll say this to the rest of America. I thought about this a long time ago. I'm going to give you two analogies, okay? So imagine that we had this incredible addiction to sushi, after Pearl Harbor, and FDR would say, you know what? We got too much money involved. We got too many people that are addicted. We need sushi. So we're not going to go after the Japanese. That's what this is all about. It's oil and the way it functions in the rest of the world. And by the way, it's not just about transportation. Oil is, I think 75% of the global economy. Don't believe me? Watch a film I made called Forward 13, Waking Up the American Dream. The second verse, same as the first. What day is it? Groundhog Day. Oh my God. And ultimately, I don't know where else you can go with this madness, except that everybody is just this ginormous clustered train wreck madness. Does anybody not have any common sense? Saudi Arabia, there's a movie called The Dissident that was done by this Academy Award winner by the name of Brian Fogel, who couldn't get it on freaking Netflix. And by the way, that was the final point that I wanted to make. He couldn't get it on Netflix because he reveals all the details of attacking the Khashoggi with this guy, MBS, Mohammed bin Sultan or whatever, the guy who's behind all of this stuff with the PGA and everything else, and dancing with Trump by that crazy globe that took place when Trump, made his first visit as the president to Saudi freaking Arabia, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know. And you can't even make this stuff up, by the way. So how many of you know that his son-in-law, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was almost bankrupt with the property that he and his family were invested in called 666 Park Avenue? I shit you not, you can't make this up. 666 Park Avenue, that was going to go bankrupt because they couldn't make the payments. Probably Deutsche Bank, I would imagine. But Saudi steps up. And there was some reasons why they did that I can't say publicly because I know what the freaking story is. Oh my God, the corruption is insane. Guys, Saudi Arabia, whether or not the government themselves actually spearheaded and construction engineered alongside bin Laden what took place on 9/11, I don't know that's what exactly happened. but they certainly provided support. And we knew that bin Laden wanted American bases out of Saudi Arabia. We knew that bin Laden was going to try to create an overthrow just like they did in Iran. And that's part and parcel why, we basically flex the muscle. And that's behind the scenes of what happened in 9/11. We go after, supposedly go after bin Laden at, what was it, Tora Bora in Afghanistan mountains, let him get away, and then when 2 years, 3 years later, we finally get bin Laden, in Navy SEAL Team 6, and he mysteriously disappears off the side of one of our naval vessels. This whole thing is so freaking whacked. The world we live in is just simply run and puppeteered and engineered by this financial system. And I didn't finish the thought, and you've got to listen to this part because it's the most important part. So BlackRock, who's one of their major investment operations, is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, and all of these guys from Chase and Goldman Sachs and everybody else did the IPO on Saudi Aramco going public. This documentary comes out by Brian Fogel, the dissident, that gives the details of what happened to Khashoggi. By the way, the nephew of the other Khashoggi that goes back to Donald Trump and Triad back in the 80s, who were involved with the gun smuggling and drug running and all of the things that were conjugate basically to get weapons into the Middle East. Yeah, that Khashoggi, who was the largest arms dealers throughout the 80s and the 90s, if you want to know the truth. And there was all sorts of stuff that happened in South America and the cocaine trade. And that's how long this stuff has been going on, guys. And it's just gotten out of control in 2021. But I still haven't made the gosh darn point that I've got to make. Because this is what I ran into, just like Brian Fogel. Netflix, the majority owner of Netflix, is none other than BlackRock. So I guess you got to just do satire and you just got to do really cool, clever stuff. There's great projects on Netflix. There's no question. I pay my membership to Netflix. I love Netflix. But they're keeping out stories like The Con, and they're also keeping out stories like The Dissident, because guys like, Larry Fink and BlackRock don't want those stories known to the American people. They don't, because they're making a mint. They're making gazillions of dollars. In fact, you might even say the only reason that we can justify trillions of dollars out of the Federal Reserve into the gatekeepers like BlackRock, who became the rulers of the world that are working with Saudi Arabia, is because Saudi Arabia trades in American dollars. Okay? Look, this is the world you've lived in for 20 plus years. Everybody in power is working for this system. I'm not. I've got the truth on a platinum platter, and it's at www.thecon.tv. Phil Mickelson, please do us some justice at Arizona State. Do the right thing. Don't play ball. Don't swing your clubs. Don't get on a course for the Saudis who freaking were behind 9/11.